What happened? Where am I? Oh, I see. I've been in stasis for the past few months, while forces beyond my control prepare the presentation on what I'm talking about in such a way that it basically comes in a roundabout way to explain that, yes, I'm talking about Half-Life again, and I'm already starting to get ahead of myself. Okay, so you know who I am at this point. My name is Sandy, and if for some reason you haven't seen my first video on Half-Life 1, it'll probably show up in the corner of the screen there, and it will also be in my description, but let's be honest, who the hell checks the description anymore? It's part of the reason why I put music credits on screen at this point. But for those of you who know about Half-Life 1, you know that I'm far from done even talking about it, as there's still expansions and other stuff that's related to it that I find to be pretty interesting. But since at least some of them pretty much follow a different set of characters but would also extend the video past what was necessary, I decided I'd put them into their own dedicated video, which is of course the one that you're currently watching right now. Within this video, I'm going to be talking about the Black Mesa remake, as well as the original expansions for the first Half-Life, and just how interesting they are in terms of expanding the story shown that's within Half-Life 1, because, I mean, why not? It would be remiss of me for me to completely ignore these amazing expansions, because, let's be honest, they're pretty damn good, and I want to talk about them, even though they have nothing to do with Gordon Freeman, but we will get to that eventually. I say that like I already don't have like 50 other video ideas that I've already shown off in a previous video. But anyways, sit back, relax, and prepare for the expansions of Half-Life 1. I'm starting with the Black Mesa remake because, well, it's probably going to be the shortest part of this video by a long shot, as it's more or less a glorified review segment. This half-official, half-fan-made remake started as a mod back in 2012, was given the green light to fully remake and actually sell commercially soon afterwards by Valve, and released its early access around 2015. It wouldn't exactly finish its full development until around, well, if you've seen my Half-Life 1 video, you should already know when. Here's your pop quiz on it. Time's up. If you guessed anything except 2020, you're wrong. This game is definitely up there in terms of probably my favorite remakes of all time, as it not only expands upon the Black Mesa facility in ways that make it seem more grounded, like this checkpoint area at the start of Anomalous Materials, updating the puzzle elements for the updated Source engine, further increasing the diversity of character models such as younger scientists, women scientists, and some varied security guards so they're not just cloning Barney the whole time, but also one thing that I'm unbelievably glad that they kept in. They kept in Gordon's silliness. Remember how I went on a whole tangent in my Half-Life video about how cool it was to have Gordon be a little silly with his arsenal to expand upon his personality without having him talk? Well, they made sure to keep it in Black Mesa and even expanded upon it in a way that makes sense. Weapon pickup animations. You see, in Black Mesa, every single time you pick up a new weapon, there's a little animation that accompanies it, whether it's just Gordon inspecting it or him doing a whole lengthy process of activating it, like for the Tau Cannon. Hell, even for the fly launcher, there's even a small interaction with a guard you can get if you pick it up in front of him.
God. If I find a camera, you are so doing that again.
And it's little additions like this that make me really love this remake, despite the flaws it, well, kind of clearly has, namely certain things just not working as intended or music bleeding into scenes where it shouldn't play. Speaking of music, let me just say, Joel Nielsen, the composer for Black Mesa, absolutely killed it with the soundtrack. Every instance where this guy's score plays feels so unbelievably awesome, and wonderfully fits the vibe of wherever they start playing. Hell, his music being so awesome is why I even used some of it for the Half-Life video. The music just slaps that hard. I mean, just take a listen. But by far, the absolute highlight of Black Mesa is, of course, Zen. Remember how in my Half-Life video I didn't really have that much to say about Zen? Well, I mean, that's because, well, just fucking look at it. There isn't really much to discuss other than the interesting direction Valve went in making Zen feel, well, pretty empty outside the latter part of Interloper. But Black Mesa decided to go in the complete opposite direction, and I absolutely adore it. You see, Zen is described in the lore as this massively diverse border world where multitudes of interdimensional flora and fauna kind of converge and coexist, and Half-Life Zen just doesn't really sell that idea. Black Mesa Zen, on the other hand, fully sells this idea by not only making it look visually stunning and almost reminded me of something I'd see out of No Man's Sky, but they even find ways to use creatures originally not even seen in the original Zen, like the barnacle and the big fish thing. And they even decide to go a step further by adding in a few new monsters that are variants of ones that you're used to, like the armored and explosive hound eyes, water barnacle, and of course these HEV zombies that are found primarily in the research station segments. Oh yeah, one thing I also forgot to mention with Zen that's a drastic improvement, which has nothing to do with the actual environment and has more to do with the gameplay, they actually made the long jump module significantly more useful. In the sense that it's now more or less a glorified double jump that allows you to kind of move in any direction. Which now adds in a fourth character archetype that's able to double jump now. We have Brazilians, people from Boston, trans people like myself, and now theoretical physicists. Another good part of Zen is that they further expand on the Vortigaunts by making them have a little village of sorts that expands on how they might have lived before the Nihilists showed up to kind of fuck up their lives. Again, it's these expansions on established details that really makes me appreciate this remake immensely. But finally, we get to something I have somewhat mixed feelings on, and that's the Nihilith itself. Don't get me wrong, the Nihilith fight in Black Mesa is a drastic improvement on the original one, with Black Mesa's fight being a hectic and climactic three-phase boss fight that is unbelievably fun. But the design and the voice of the Nihilith is where I get a little lost. Black Mesa went less in the direction of the ominous overlord that became the very thing it escaped from, and more in the generic big bad monster direction, leading the Nihilith to look and sound almost cartoonishly evil. It's not exactly the worst thing, but it's one of the few big misses that Black Mesa has that I really just can't ignore. But I will say, the final G-Man speech is unbelievably well done. The visuals being reminiscent of the Half-Life 2 speeches, you'll understand what I mean when we actually get around to talking about it in a later video. And of course, the voice actor for the G-Man is unbelievably close to the point where I'd almost assume it was just an official remake.
That's why I'm here, Mr. Freeman. I have recommended your services to my employers, and they have authorized me to offer you a job. They agree with me that you have limitless potential.
Overall, if I were to rate it like I usually do with other games, if, this were just its own review video, I'd probably give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Incredibly solid remake, but with a few small hiccups and misses here and there that keep it from true perfection. But anyway, I think it's time we travel back in time to talk about the official expansions for Half-Life. Our first of the two expansions we will be discussing here is Opposing Force, as it's the first one that was released. Now, I can already hear the people who are more knowledgeable in Half-Life than me typing, and yes, I do mean too, as the third expansion is PS2 exclusive and I can't be asked to set up an emulator for it. Now, I have done research on Decay, and from what I've seen, it's pretty damn good, if not one of the best out of the three expansions. Not only because it has solid-looking gameplay and has quite the expansion of the Black Mesa incident, but the main protagonists of it are women, which is pretty freaking cool. In fact, this expansion is good enough that people are attempting to recreate it so that way it's playable on Steam. But of course, this is just yet another example of Sony buying the rights to the best things imaginable, only for them to never port it to PC and forget its existence in favor of their 50th Last of Us 2 remaster. But before we dive into Opposing Force properly, there are a few things about it that I do want to get out of the way first. Key of which is that this is the only expansion where I'd recommend actually playing the tutorial level. There's two reasons why. First of which is that it's the most unique out of the three. Not only is it the longest out of the three, training rooms, if you will, but it also takes place in a new environment since, well, I don't imagine the HECU are immediately stationed at Black Mesa. Oh yeah, did I mention that this expansion puts us in the shoes of an HECU unit? I'll elaborate on that later. The second and most important reason is, well, you literally won't know about the few new things that this expansion adds without actually playing the tutorial. Main one being the addition of actual climbable ropes.
Damn, okay.
Ropes. We could use them for big pits.
However, ropes are quite janky in this expansion, and I feel like their addition led to a very annoying bug present throughout this expansion and this expansion alone, the sticky feet bug. What I mean by this is that on either lifts or scripted sliding segments, the game will randomly cause your feet to stick to the ground, and the only way to fix it is basically to reload a prior save and just hope that it doesn't happen again. This leads to a hilarious and annoying muscle memory of constantly crouch bee-hopping on every lift and slide that you're on, just to make sure that the science team doesn't prank you with Black Mesa superglue stuck to your combat boots. The final thing to mention, and this extends to both of the expansions that we're going to be discussing here, is that these are outsourced to Gearbox for development, while Valve worked on other projects, mainly, an updated Source engine as well as Half-Life 2. Now that we have that out of the way, let's actually get into opposing force. Our story starts with the main protagonist in a plane surrounded by his fellow HECU soldiers, which are all joking and jabbing about the fact that they don't even know what their mission is actually meant to be.
Where the hell are we anyway? Well, the pilot thought we were heading to your mother's house. So far, this all looks familiar. Yeah, that's real cute, Jack. Anytime, anywhere.
It's here that we are introduced to who we are, which is a Corporal Adrian Shepard, and it's also here that we find out the HECU are apparently a branch of the Marines in this universe. Now, I have stumbled across videos explaining how this doesn't make sense in my research, but let's be honest, who gives a damn? As our commander starts quieting everyone down to start briefing them on their mission, a nearby plane gets atomized by a Xenian Manta, which then leads everyone to start panicking shortly before the plane that we're on gets blasted from the sky as well. And that ends opposing force. Now we move on to I'm just fucking with you. After watching a fellow squad mate get zapped by a Vortigaunt, you finally wake up in some kind of makeshift medical ward. Here we meet a scientist that's trying to revive a fallen soldier before letting you know just how fucked up our current situation is.
Oh, you've woken up. Corporal Shepard, is it? I've read the tag on your uniform. I'm glad to see my life-saving efforts weren't in vain. I can't say the same for him. I'm afraid you have been through a serious accident. Most of your friends didn't make it. I was hoping that you soldiers had come to rescue us, but now it seems we are all in the same situation. I think I saw a radio near the crash site where I found you. Perhaps you can go there and radio for help?
Alright, current mission. Reach the surface. But first you gotta find your PCVs, that way you're well protected against whatever the hell will be thrown at you. Thankfully it's nearby some scientists who are more fascinated by the head crabs than actually helping anyone here. After passing by a small accident in an x-ray room, you find a security guard that looks different from the others for once. After he lets you through, you find your first weapon, the pipe wrench, which is the only melee weapon with a secondary attack in the form of a charged heavy blow. Once you have that, you find this laser machine that, once broken, kills the power in the room and allows you to proceed. Over in the next area you see... Wait, why the fuck is he here? Anyway...
Look, Gordon, we made it to the surface!
Okay, well... Kinda. We still have a few hops and jumps before we actually get where we need to go. Eventually, we do reach the wreckage of the plane we were on, being electrified by the fence. Of course, we need to pass by this in order to make progress, so we gotta find the power grid for the fence. Thankfully, it's nearby, and after watching the smartest American police officer electrocute himself, we make our way inside and shut off the power to the fence. It's also here that we find our first ranged option, which is whatever the hell this gun is. Its secondary fires a target laser that makes this gun impossible to aim without. If you don't believe me, here's me firing out a Vortigaunt at near point-fucking-blank range without the laser sight. Now that we can climb over the wreckage, we can now radio for help. Alright, now we can make our way down this channel where we can find a more familiar weapon, the shotgun. After introducing the Vortigaunts to a round of all lives buckshot roulette, we find our way into this room where... what the hell?! Thanks, G-Man. After getting through the most messed up storage chamber and going through even more dirty water, we find our way to whatever this room is. In order to proceed, you must blow up these boxes so that way this crab thing can actually leave the room and allow you to flush out this radioactive soup. Now you hop onto one of the few still functioning trams to... I don't know, I guess wherever it'll take you, I guess. After getting surprise attacked by a couple of Vortigons and speaking with another security guard, we find...
What is that, Doc?
I don't know. I've never seen that species before.
It's okay, sir. I can take it.
No! I don't want to die!
Okay, we will get to that later. Right now, we gotta make our way through these vents into a small post where some fellow soldiers are evacuating. Here we kinda get a general idea as to what time this particular expansion is taking place.
Come in, Cooper. Do you copy? Forget about Freeman. We're abandoning the base. If you have any last bomb targets, mark them on the tactical map. Otherwise, get the hell out of there. Repeat, we are pulling out and commencing airstrikes. Give us targets or get below.
After this, we find a soldier harassing a scientist. From here, we have two options. The lame option, which is to take the stairs down. Or you can take the based option, which is to whack this soldier upside the head for breaking that scientist's legs. Either way, we'll just end up here where we'll get cut off from being able to evacuate and... Oh, you fucker. Okay, thankfully these Vortigons break open another exit for you at least. Through here is this wacky sequence leading to these big-ass fans, and past these is... whatever in the hell this room is supposed to be. It's here where we are introduced to a brand new enemy, the Big Zombie. These guys are only slightly tankier than soldier zombies and have the unique ability to run around and throw their organs at you. After finding another section of this area and using the fireball cannons to blow open the floor, we find this underground hangar of sorts where... oh boy. Meet Race X. This goofy series of aliens just kind of popped up from nowhere and showed up later on in the Black Mesa incident to, I don't know, I guess just fuck shit up more than the regular Xenians. Get used to these things as these are going to be your main enemies of this expansion, and they are quite annoying. After surviving these things, we find a broken elevator shaft. Going down leads us to an area where the main power for the elevators is found, and will allow you to safely climb these cables up to the next floor. Upstairs is this office area that's, well, certainly seen better days, and at the end of it, we radio for assistance, and it arrives pretty quickly.
Corporal Shepard, we've been left behind as well. We're onto your position now. Stand back from the maintenance door. We're gonna blow it.
These guys help you break into the elevator and up to what I can only assume is a conference section. If you do take this other door up ahead, you'll find a small selection of ammunition with the best security measure, the screeching door. Upstairs is more Vortigons tearing up the place while being assisted by big guys. It's been a while since we've seen these guys, huh? And further onwards is this other generator area where you'll need to swing between ropes in order to get to the other side. We finally reach the surface again where a medic awaits our arrival.
Shepard, what the hell were you doing down there? Listen, we need to get our asses down to the extraction point near Lambda Sector. With any luck, we'll even get a shot at Freeman on our way out. Now, this transit system should take us there, but the door is sealed up pretty tight. Jeez, where's an engineer when you need one?
Alright, so new mission, find an engineer. After we climb through this vent, we overhear some new voices.
Why do we always have to clean up a mess the grunt can?
And after crashing their party, we find out that these soldiers are, for some reason, not on our side. We do find an engineer here heavily injured, and after bringing the medic over to heal him, we are allowed to continue to the railway. It's here that we find out what those new soldiers were. Black Ops soldiers.
Corporal, what the hell is going on here? Nobody told us about black operations in the mission briefing. Yeah, I mean, we're all on the same team, right? Right? Well, I'm not sure what their mission is, but we need to keep moving. There's gotta be a transit car somewhere on these tracks.
Seems the HECU weren't doing enough to clear things out, so these guys are sent in to, I guess, just kill any person in sight, including the remaining HECUs that have failed to evacuate. After going through a vaguely similar section and blasting apart the Black Ops, we ride the rails over to... Okay, yeah, no, not today, pal. After climbing through this vent, we find ourselves in the Lambda complex. What the fuck?
It's ready. You must go, now!
Opening up these doors, we get to see Gordon hop into Zen, and if we try to follow him, we get a secret ending where Adrian just falls to the void. What you're actually supposed to do is wait for this catwalk to collapse and open up a different portal to Zen. Here we find the teleporter gun. No, I'm not joking, it can do stuff like this. After making your way out of Zen, we find ourselves back inside of some kind of lab. Going downwards leads us to a scientist that locked himself in an underwater chamber to escape some Race X aliens. Once you clear them out and free him, you can have him unlock another door that allows you to get to another similar teleporter. Well, I guess there's no going back, huh? Going through the small underwater gauntlet has us enter this X-ray room that's malfunctioning. Past that is another lab where we meet another variant of Race X. Killing it gives us a brand new weapon that's basically this expansion's equivalent of the fly launcher. After a few more hallways and brief vacations to Zen, we find ourselves inside the Biodome complex. We'll find out what that means really soon, and by really soon, I mean like right now, where we're briefly introduced to this big tumor of an enemy. After a bit more explanation and elevator shaft travel, we find another biodome that seems to have some Zen terrain on it, oddly enough, even including a healing pool. Honestly, refreshing, to be honest. In this next room is another new weapon, the slug cannon. I'm sure that's not what this thing is called, but it's what I'm calling it, because what else do you call this horrifying weapon? After testing it on a big zombie, we travel onwards to a part of the lab dedicated to studying the barnacles.
Ah, yes, Walter. We were finally able to successfully detach one of the barnacle creatures from its point of gestation. As before, we were still only able to coerce the creature into latching onto organic materials. Unfortunately, the administrator has called me down to the anomalous materials lab this morning for an important experiment, so I don't have any time to further my analysis. Take specimen number 1176 and log anything else you can find.
Here we get a detached barnacle that we can use as a grappling hook of sorts, and yes, it's about as weird as it sounds. Once you use your newfound slurping grappler in order to reach a vent, we find another radio with a distress signal attached. Okay, well that certainly doesn't sound good. Going through another vent leads us straight into more raw sewage, and past that, this big worm creature. Welcome to your first boss. Your goal? Get rid of the worm. The segment is basically like Blast Pit, but somehow more deadly. You're basically going back and forth to different parts of this waste processing area and turning stuff on in order to melt this worm at the end with nuclear waste. It's a little bit overkill, but hey, as long as it works. Once we're able to get to the other side, we climb our way back up to the surface to be assaulted by more Black Ops soldiers. Eventually, we get our hands on the sniper rifle, which is surprisingly good, to be honest. And after going through this game's equivalent of 0-S and surviving whatever the fuck this section is, we are saved by some of our fellow soldiers, also we can power through onto our next section. Of course he's here. Once we blast this giant off the bridge, we go down the pipes to meet some more fellow soldiers who give us our next task. Fight like hell. Once we make it here and find some cover, we listen in on another radio broadcast that gives us what to do next.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word.
Let me just say, controlling this mortar thing is an absolute nightmare. Now that we're through this barrier, we return to fighting like hell, but now with a helicopter on our ass, the whole— oh wait, it just went down that easy. Okay, never mind then. Once we find our way into this parking area and slaughter some more Black Ops, we find a guard hidden in the vents that gives us some vital information.
Now don't hurt me, and
I'll tell you a secret. I've been hiding up here listening. These Black Ops have some sort of bomb. I think they're planning on blowing up the base. Now, why do you think they would do such a thing?
A bomb, you say? Well, I guess we gotta find that. I guess it's hidden somewhere. Oh. Okay, never mind then. After using our expert bomb defusal skills, we find this security guard that will let us through into the sub-level area. Here is basically a final gauntlet of Black Ops, Race X, and wild platforming that takes us to our final challenge, which this security guard towards the end warns us about.
I guess you're a good guy, Corporal. Listen, you've got to get down below. There's something coming through, and it's the nastiest looking thing yet. Some of your buddies went down there a while ago, and I haven't seen them since. I've got some weapons I've piled up in here. You better take as much as you can carry, because I think this is it. Good luck, Corporal.
Well, I guess we got ourselves one last thing to clear out. Let's dance. After sending that beast back to whatever layer of hell it crawled out of, we are greeted by the G-Man again, this time giving Adrian a bit of a parting message of sorts.
So, Corporal Shepard, we meet at last. Please don't think that I've been avoiding you. A great many matters require my attention in these troubled times. I do hope you understand. And now I require a further indulgence on your part. I cannot close my report until every loose end has been tied up. The biggest embarrassment has been Black Mesa facility, but I think that's finally taken care of itself. Quite so. But there is still the lingering matter of witnesses. I admit I have a fascination with those who adapt and survive against all odds. They rather remind me of myself. If for no other reason, I have argued to preserve you for a time. While I believe a civil servant like yourself understands the importance of discretion, my employers are not quite so trusting, and rather than continually subject you to the irresistible human temptation of telling all, we have decided to convey you somewhere you can do no possible harm, and where no harm can come to you. I'm sure you can imagine there are worse alternatives.
And thus, Adrian Shepard was never mentioned again. Except for in one of the worst Half-Life mods ever, Hunt Down the Freeman.
Oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. They brought opposing forces into this, didn't they? Don't say it, Adrian. Don't you dare.
Adrian?
Yeah, that's my fucking reaction, to be honest.
But, with that done, let's move on to Blue Shift. Our last and second shortest stop here is on Blue Shift, which coincidentally is also the last expansion ever released for Half-Life, a full 2 years before Half-Life 2 actually released. I don't exactly have much to get into before diving into the expansion, aside from the fact that this one is, in my opinion, just a little better than Opposing Force, and I'll explain in due time, don't worry. Blue Shift starts similarly to, well, Half-Life itself, on a tram headed to our regularly scheduled work shift. During our tram ride, we get more views of the inside of the facility, like lunch areas and a few cave site analysis centers with significantly less workplace accidents. We also pass by a security post, where we are introduced to who we're playing as, Barney Calhoun, a security officer for the Black Mesa research facility. We also pass by Gordon Freeman on our way to our designated post, and we also find out that I was wrong on which guard was actually Barney in my original Half-Life video, but you would already know that if you were actually paying attention to said video. After some technical difficulties with the door, we are led into our post and told to get our sidearm and suit before we actually start work.
Calhoun, you know you can't go on duty without your sidearm and uniform.
It's also around here that we find out just how bad the technical difficulties across Black Mesa were before the incident, and we also find out that the guards also work as the technicians of Black Mesa.
I can't access my files. I can't answer my mail. I haven't even been able to get into my office.
I know, sir, I know. We're doing everything we can to get the problem under control. Just give us some time.
Time? I don't have any more time. If I'm not able to get my report to the administrator in the next hour, then my job will be in serious jeopardy, and I'll make sure that mine is not the only one.
I guess being a guard here is a lot more work than just shooting problems away here, huh? Anyway, on one end you find your pistol and a decent amount of starting ammo, and going back up to another area you find the lockers where your helmet and body armor are waiting. One thing to note about this expansion, you can only replenish armor using similar armor pickups like, well, what you just saw in the locker, meaning that every suit charging station you find will be completely useless. You can also find this box in Barney's locker, and by firing every single bullet you have into it, you find his pet alien. I know that this probably doesn't have any lore significance, but I just felt like mentioning it because I think it's funny. As you head out to start working, the guard in the lobby stops you and tells you about an issue in another sector.
Uh-oh, now what? Looks like some people are having problems with the main access lift in Sector G. Why don't you go over there and see what you can do?
It seems that this is our first job. Seems simple enough. Unfortunately, we have to make that trek on foot because the usual methods of getting there are all malfunctioning. After making our way through the least ominous hallways in Black Mesa and encountering the only G-Man sighting in this expansion, we finally reach the lift in question and seemingly fix the elevator. At least until,
Oh dear! Ah!
We wake up to a hound eye eating one of our fellow guards, and we grab our first melee weapon, the trusty crowbar. After testing it against some boxes and unlucky hound eyes, we make our way into this examination room kinda area. Up the ladder is a scientist giving us an idea as to just how long we've actually been out for.
Calhoun, how did you get through the power lock? Well, it doesn't matter. The only other way out of here is through the canal. If you do make it to the surface, don't tell anyone I'm down here. I think they're trying to kill us all. Now get out of here. The canal is where you want to be.
Alright, first real mission, reach the canal. After blasting open this door and making our way across the pit here, we reach our first puzzle. This one just involves a lot of eyeballing heights and hoping everything's in line for you to reach this ladder up here. After some more close encounters of the third kind, we reach this waste disposal area. At this point, we're familiar with these as we've had to deal with at least one per game so far, huh? Reaching this platform up here will allow you to call down that lift across the pit. It'll prove its importance later. After making our way downwards, it will take us to this spot, which allows us to move the water upwards, so that way we can not only grab the trusty shotgun, but also make our way to the lift we called down earlier. After witnessing 2 zombies perform a fatality on a fellow guard, we travel through more wastewater and turn on the power to the smaller lifts, which lets us finally get to our main destination. Pushing the explosive crate into the pit has it float down into the crushers, which causes those crushers to explode and actually allows us to safely travel past them. Up here we find 2 HECU soldiers dumping bodies into the waters below, and thankfully are also unaware of our existence for the time being. Now, we reach the surface where we find some grenades and the Magnum in a nearby area. After our fat ass breaks this ladder, we drop down underground again, fiddling with the steam pipes until we find a lift out of there. Here we meet more Vortigons and some head crabs failing to jump scare us while we're crawling through the vents of this weird section of the facility. Eventually we meet the HECU, and after gunning them down, we are met with a dying scientist who gives us our next mission.
I appreciate your help, but I'm afraid those bastards did their damage already. If you were trying to reach the freight yards in hope of escaping, then just forget about it. The military is rounding up everyone and everything they can find, and either killing them or bringing them up here for questioning. A colleague and I came up with our own plan for escape, and we were on our way to one of the old prototype labs when we ran into them. But listen to me. If you still want to get out of here alive, your only hope may be to find my friend. If you can get past the soldiers, find Dr. Rosenberg. With him, you may have a chance to get out of this place.
Alright, Dr. Rosenberg. Sounds simple enough. Outside is, of course, more soldiers ready to gun you down. Thankfully, you're now just as armed as they are. After going through this office area and blasting apart more soldiers, we open this train car to find...
Rescued at last! Thank God you're here! No, I'm afraid I'm not Dr. Rosenberg.
Well, fuck, I guess we'll keep looking then. Further on, we see soldiers who apparently forgot that they had a fucking turret. After teaching them how a gun works, we clear out these steel spools and open up the next train car to finally meet...
I'm afraid I'm not Dr. Rosenberg.
For fuck's sake, fine, we'll keep looking. Past this tunnel, we find soldiers and a tank they somehow got onto a train car base. After blasting those apart and probably taking a few attempts to do so because your dumbass forgot that tank explosions do in fact deal damage to you, we blast open another tunnel for another very open area gunfight. Once you clean the area, you find a train car attached to one of those rail carts. Moving the train car into position and opening the door has us finally meet...
We got that bastard. What's the status on Freeman?
Yes, I'm Dr. Rosenberg. Although I'm not very proud to admit it, seeing as though I'm partially responsible for all of this. How did you know my name? Oh, I see. Poor Harold. Yes, our plan was to get to one of the old prototype labs. It involved something that very few people in the facility are authorized to know about. The same technology that brought about this catastrophe could also be our only way out. You see, I was involved in the very early work on teleporter technology, long before the Lambda complex was even built. There may be enough equipment in the old lab to piece together a device that would allow us to teleport outside of the facility. As improbable as that may sound to someone like yourself. Of course, none of that does a whole lot of good while we're stuck in here.
Fucking finally! After Rosenberg, who funnily enough is voiced by the same guy who voices Duke Nukem, helps us take out the surrounding soldiers by surprise, you help lead him to this one part of the facility hidden behind a wall.
We should have chosen the Lambda reactor for an escape, but the crew there is bent on fighting the creatures, with all their hopes set on someone named Freeman. Let those fools try and fight a battle they can't win. I just want to get out of here.
You know, if only he knew the person he was trash-talking here. Anyway, we are now in this area, which is presumably a smaller-scale testing teleporter facility of sorts. Unfortunately, this teleporter can't just take us out of Black Mesa. I'll just have Rosenberg explain why.
Unfortunately, this older technology does not have the ability to target an Earth destination in its current state. You see, Mr. Calhoun, teleportation isn't as easy as going from point A to point B. We discovered a strange border world that was somehow involved in the process, which kept us from accurately predicting where any given teleportation event would lead to back on Earth. Some of the more promising research on the matter led to a device that could be attached to the strange crystalline structures we found on this border world. Now, this device could then be used as a focal point and a relay to aid in the teleportation. Well, in theory, that is. We lost contact with the survey group shortly after the device was in place. We later discovered other methods of aiming the field, but all of the equipment in this lab uses the older technology. In order for any of us to get out of here alive, someone will have to go to the border world and activate the device. I'm afraid you're the only one who can do this, seeing as how everyone else will be needed to operate the equipment.
For those of you who didn't catch all that, We basically have to go to Zen to have the teleporter function how we want it to. You know, sounds simple enough. Now that we're in Zen, we travel through some claustrophobic caves and, of course, more headcrabs to finally reach a somewhat more open area. Here we find some good old-fashioned crouch jump platforming, which I definitely did on my first try. After a few more similar platforming sections and swimming through the sludge of Zen, we find this little outpost area with this contraption wrapped around a big-ass Zen crystal. After tuning the machine and fighting through an ambush of Nihilith troops, we climb back to where we came from to get back to Earth in record time.
The signal we're getting is very strong, but I'm afraid I have some bad news. The power reserves were just enough to open the field for your trip to the border world. If we plan on keeping the teleporter open long enough to calculate a safe exit point and allow time for everyone to go through, someone will have to go to the lower level and retrieve another power cell. A few of our colleagues went down there a while ago, but we haven't heard from them since. Can only fear for the worst. I hate to keep putting you in this position, but you must realize that if someone doesn't go down there, then none of us will get out of here alive. Besides, you're the best equipped to deal with any dangers that may be waiting.
Well, at this point, we're used to going through Hell Rosenberg. Speaking of which, this leads me to a regularly scheduled tangent. Alright, so you might have noticed a lack of G-Man sightings in this expansion, and I think that's by design. You see, one thing that I forgot to mention is that this sharp-suited fuck is kind of behind a lot of what's going on here, and is known for kinda nudging certain events in favor of whoever he has an active eye on, which undoubtedly leads to said individuals encountering a lot more danger than anticipated. People like Gordon and Adrian are of course subjects of said fate nudging, which is why a lot of unusual occurrences happen whenever this fucker appears on screen. But Barney noticeably encounters significantly less of these occurrences, well, aside from the usual post-Cascade bullshittery that we're more than used to at this point. Meaning that Barney is either just really lucky to not encounter as many threats as Gordon and Adrian, or G-Man is just that much better at hiding from Barney. Either way, I'll commend Barney for being badass in a much different way than Gordon and Adrian. And that's part of why I like this expansion a little more than opposing force. Anyway, we're in the basement now, and our first visual is a scientist and a guard getting assaulted.
Get out of here! I can take...
Going back has us overhear the HECU planning to break in. Let's just set these up, and... Alright, moving on. There's more soldiers down here, and a puzzle involving moving these barrels into place so you can cross the river of deadly blue raspberry sludge that this thing is filled with. After another surprise attack, we reach another part of this basement where we turn on another part of this reactor thingy. Now that we make our way back and reposition this bridge, we can finally charge up that new battery. Now all we have to do is head up and help Dr. Rosenberg send the rest of the team to the exit of Black Mesa.
Come through right away, we thought that the... Oh no, there's something wrong here. Simmons, come look at Calhoun. His body seems to be in some sort of resonance displacement.
Let's kill him now. And if they find the body? Body? What body?
Oh, thank God you made it. I was worried that a malfunction occurred at the last moment and you might have been caught in an infinite harmonic reflux. If that's the case, then you're lucky to be standing here. Then again, we're all lucky. Thanks to you, however, we were actually able to pull off this harebrained idea. We made it, Mr. Calhoun. We made it.
And thus ends the Half-Life expansions. So, the Half-Life expansions are pretty interesting. From showing that Gordon wasn't the only candidate in mind for the G-Man, to showing how teleportation in this universe works, and even more, we get to see this chaotic series of events from just so many different perspectives. The Black Mesa incident being so large as to catch the attention of a completely different alien faction also lends credence to what ultimately leads to the events of the sequel. But that'll have to wait, cause right now I'm actually kinda... Miss Valentine, we meet at last. I'm sorry, but how did you get into my house? That is of no importance, Miss Valentine. What is of importance is that you have piqued my interest for quite some time. Your many feats have not gone unnoticed, and I have come to preserve you for some time. Oh, wait. You can't just put me back in stasis, bud. I just got out. I can't go... Unfortunately, Miss Valentine, you have no illusion of choice here. As for me, this is where I get off.